Happy Chanukah, good evening. It's now the second night of Chanukah. We lit the second candle of Chanukah tonight. Haneros Halalu Kodesh Hem. These candles, they are holy. Every night of Chanukah, we will meet here on the Hidabroot channel for a special program with guest rabbis, songs, and good music. Together with me in the studio tonight is Rabbi Yirmiyohu Abramov. Rabbi Abramov served in various rabbinic and educational positions in Israel and abroad, and founded the Ner Le'elef World Center for Jewish Leadership and Outreach. He is also the spiritual advisor of the Hidabroot English Project. Before we speak though, Rabbi, we got to do a little music. It's Chanukah. So we're going to go straight to a song.
Let's go.
ובודו חומות מן דלי ותימו כל השמנים היוונים נקבצו עליי אזי בימי השמנים ובודו חומות מגדלי ותימו כל השמנים ומנוס הקנקנים נעשה נס לשושנים בנבין הימי שמונה קבו שיר עננים ומנוץ הקנקנים, קנקנים נעשה נס לשושנים, שושנים בנבין הימי שמונה קבו שיר עננים היו יוונים נקבצו עליי אזי בימי השמנים ובודו חומות מגדלי ותימו כל השמנים היוונים נקבצו עליי אזי בימי השמנים ובודו חומות מגדליים ותימו כל השמנים ומנוס הקנקנים, קנקנים נעשה נס לשושנים, שושנים בנבין הימי שמונה קבו שיר עננים ומנוץ הקנקנים, קנקנים נעשה נס לשושנים, שושנים בנבין ימי שמונה קבו שיר עננים.
The song is great. I've been hearing it for the past 60 years, and it gets better every year.
Very good. So I have some questions for you, and I would like to start with the following question, and that is, how did the Maccabees prevail against all odds? How did they do it?
Okay, it really is against all odds. You have the massive Greek army with all its sophisticated weaponry and a little handful, one family essentially, taking them on, and they prevailed. How does such a thing happen? That is really the essential miracle of Chanukah. So the issue is that there was such self-sacrifice there. It was so deep and so profound that the deeper a person digs into his essence, the closer he gets to God, and he evokes spiritual assistance. So it was completely miraculous, and these people were functioning. They were being propelled by a real deep desire. They realized they were defending the very essence of the Jewish people.
Wow. And there's a bit of a history in Tanakh of like Avram Avinu, and where a very few number can do something very powerful. And obviously with God's wind in their sails, they prevail.
Well, that's the essence of the Jewish people. Avraham ha'ivri, Abraham the Hebrew. The word ivri means on the other side. The history, the nature of Jewish history is that we always seem to be isolated on one side, a small little folk, and on the other side are these massive groups of enemies, and somehow we've got some divine assistance, and we prevail.
Wow.
Please God, we'll keep going.
Amen, amen. Okay, so our sages tell us that just as the Maccabees purified the temple, in order to re-inaugurate the temple, the Maccabees themselves, when they came back, I imagine there was some level of impurity. They were dealing with death and the impurity of death. So what exactly is involved with the purification of the Maccabees, and what is it all about? Purify yourself before you purify the temple.
Good, great question. they reached into the depths of their soul. You know, the word soul is nephesh, which is the same letters as ner, candle, pei, which is the ptil, which is the wick, and shin is the shemen. So the essence of Chanukah, of a candle, is soul. The Jews have prevailed throughout history, reaching into the depths of their soul. When people reach into their soul, that is the ultimate purification. So the way they prepared themselves for this massive task was to reach deep into the depths of their soul and connect with the most profound element that there is in this whole creation, and that is God.
So what you're saying, see, I thought you were going to tell me they jumped in the mikveh. You're saying that, which I'm sure they did go in the mikveh, and they probably had other purification processes necessary, maybe even the ashes of the red heifer. I don't know if there's tumas mace from that, but there were also, there was a lot of Jews who had joined that battle. So there were mityavnim, Hellenized Jews in there.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but what you're saying is something much deeper, and that is perhaps what we'd say is like creating a context of something before you even get to what you're going to do with that context.
Absolutely.
And you're saying like dig deep into the soul, kind of creating your own vessel for what you're going to be up to later. But life's just like that. I mean, think of anyone in any position of responsibility. There was something was going on inside first, and you're saying that for Chanukah, maybe for all of us, we have to dig into the like real depths of the soul, and then light the candles.
Right. And the paradox is, the deeper you dig, the higher you go.
Wow.
So digging deep is really elevating.
Like a building, like the deeper the foundation, the higher the building.
One's elevating and one's connecting. They were connected with the higher source. And being connected with the higher source and propelled by tremendous self-sacrifice.
Wow.
Some of them died in this battle. But it was this is the essential story of the Jewish people.
Amazing. I don't know if you do this or you suggest people to do this, but maybe before lighting so quickly, each night, maybe to close our eyes and go in there, and then light.
Yeah, that's true. And it says that one should look at the candle, because looking at the candle, meditate a little bit about that candle. There's an energy, there's a power that this candle is digging down to the depths, going through the wick into the very essential shemen, which is the fuel. And that's what we need to do. We need to constantly be fueling our actions from the depths of our soul.
Wow, amazing. Which is partially why the Greeks didn't like us very much, because
that's right.
The depths of our soul was much bigger than they could ever have contended with.
Great, because they actually denied the existence of anything beyond the physical.
Wow.
They denied the existence of the soul. So it became a battle of soul against the physical.
Jeez.
And that's where the battle was, and we prevailed because that's the essence of what the world is about. So that's how we prevailed. We had
Beautiful. Now, we're on education here, so I'd like to ask, what is self-education?
Okay, we're already there. Parents have a sacred obligation to make their children alert and aware of the fact that there is an inner self. Children have a very uncanny sense of that.
Self-education means you don't stop going to school. It means you have an inner self.
Of the self, that's precisely that.
Nice. That's your term, self-education.
That's right, yeah, it's self-education. And that's really...
What kid wouldn't want to be self-educated?
Right. And you know what? It's not such a great challenge, because kids, with their purity, they very, very easily can access the depths of their soul. The soul is not enclosed and encased in many layers of what's called these shelves called klipot. The soul is not yet encased. There's still this purity. So the moment a parent starts awakening this and evoking this, the kids respond, and they become much more soul and much more in depth. And when you've got that in the child becomes passionate about what he's doing. And that's what you want to evoke in our children. Educating doesn't mean just throwing information at them. Education means making them aware of the deeper inner self.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. What is the main job of parents when it comes to educating kids?
Yeah, well, I guess parents have to understand that they're on stage as we are right now. And when you're on stage, you know that eyes are riveted upon you. Parents are the most beloved to a child. The child looks to the parent, and he wants to emulate. So the key word is education by emulation. If the parent's conduct and behavior is not consistent with what the message he's trying to give, he won't be taken seriously by the kids. So the first thing is, parents, get your act together. Start behaving like a mensch. Control different elements of yourself. So the father who screams at his kid, "I won't have anger around in this house." And he's saying it within anger. The kid is saying, "So what's this guy telling me?" So it's by emulation. Education is by emulation.
Wow.
Of parents primarily. We want them rather to emulate us parents than emulate maybe other figures or other personalities that are around all over the world. Let them educate and it's with love, because parents love their children naturally. So they sense that.
It lends me a lot to, right now, to think about parents being kind of more involved in Greek lifestyle than the Judaism while sending their kids to Hebrew school or wherever they're sending them, or, you know.
Yeah, well, look, the fact is we're living in alien cultures, alien and different to the Jewish culture. That's been very much the name of the game for Jews throughout history. And we were trained by our forefathers, Abraham primarily, that you've got to be able to resist the culture around you. You've got to stick to your guns. You've got to stick to who you are. You know, can I tell a little story?
Sure.
There was a secular fellow traveling in Africa on a safari. And he was warned that there's a lot of hostile bandits. So don't stop the car. When you're driving through the jungles of Africa, don't stop the car. Just keep driving. And so he abided by this until he saw a little kid, a little very wretched-looking kid with his hand out, must be hungry. So he figured that he can't be, he's harmless. So he stopped the car and he switched off the engine in order to dig in his knapsack in his bag to find the kid a chocolate bar. And he was there digging into it when by the time he stood up and looked around him, he was surrounded by a band of very hostile-looking savages armed to the teeth.
Whoa.
The game's up. This kid was a decoy. So they said to him, "Give us all your money, but first of all, tell us, who are you? Before we kill you, we'd like to know who we're killing." So he says, "Well, I'm a Jew from Israel." So the leader, who knew a bit of English, said, "You're Jewish? You're from the chosen people?" And he said something in the African lingo, and they all suddenly dropped their arms and ammunitions, and they said, "The chosen people. We finally see a member of the chosen people." Now, this baffled secular fellow didn't know really who he was. And there they were dancing around him, plied him with gifts, and he left there a different man. That he had to go to Africa and have primitive savages telling him that he's part of the chosen people.
Wow.
We've got to keep impressing upon our children. We're special. We've got a special history. The world recognizes it. From the savages in the deep jungles of Africa, throughout, the world recognizes that the Jew is something special. So give this kid, so true, he's in this foreign Greek culture, this alien culture. But if the parents' role in educating is know where you're coming from. You're coming from great places.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. We have a famous line regarding education, which is Hanuch Nara Pi Darkei, that you educate a child according to his way. What do you do if the kid's ways are Greek? His kid's got Greek ways. He's living in that culture. That's what he values. That's, he's got his, he's got the whole world at his fingertips, of the Greek world, the Western world.
That's not really his way. That's just a shell. The Talmud tells us that every individual in mankind throughout history is completely unique and different. Everyone's face is different. And the Talmud says, by the same token that their face, which is panim, is different, so the pnim, which is the internal self, is also different. And that is every single child and every single person in this world is unique and different. And the parent has to, it says, Chanoch lana'ar al pi darkoi, educate a person in accordance with his way, it means parents should identify, and they should understand, I'm dealing with a unique individual, identify the unique aspects of his personality, cultivate them, build them, foster them. Don't just lump them all together. What's good for one is not necessarily good for the other. That's what it means, al pi darko. But you've got to delve into the depths of this kid, again into his personality. Go to the self, the inner self.
And that inner self will be something totally different than his externality, whatever Western externality. So you're saying that that's just a cover-up for the deeper self.
Yeah, that's it.
So you fan the flame of the inner self of that child.
That's right. And the moment the child becomes more focused on inner and self, then the shell automatically starts just dropping off. And his essence become who he really is. That's the challenge of education. Find out who the child really is, and foster that and cultivate that.
Well, since I have the leader behind Hidabroot English programming, can you just give us a word or two? What are the plans? Where are we going from here?
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing, by the way. This is our first inaugural Chanukah
So,
program.
Look, Hidabroot, which is a fantastically successful Israeli Hebrew-speaking endeavor, historic, and it's has an enormous impact on
This is a full television network, right? This is 24/6?
24/6 television network, as well as a very sophisticated site on the internet, and it has a huge following.
How
and
big?
Making
they got a lot of Israelis are tuning into this.
Tremendous following, and from all sectors, ranging from the very totally secular in Israel, and they're fascinated by the fact that they can see sophisticated and high-class and sensitive programming. So it's been a fantastic success.
Really?
So I came along to the heads of Hidabroot, primarily to the Rabbi Zamir, and the people around him, and I said, guys, there's a massive English world out there, and the vast majority of Jews in the world are English speakers. Right. So why don't you use the art that you've developed and the sophistication and the infrastructure, and let's start doing programming for English.
Wow.
And I've been, as they say, a nudnik. I've been very persistent, and it's now happening. They've taken it very seriously, and it's happening. And there's a whole channel developing, please God, in English. There's going to be a lot of English programming. There's guys like Rabbi Yirmiyohu Glaser around, who's an untapped resource, and many, many others of fantastic, fabulous educators who we can dip into those resources. And the idea is to do programs in Israel. There's hundreds of thousands of Anglo-English speakers in Israel. And of course, there's millions of Anglo-English speaking people abroad. And today with media, you can reach all these people. So I think this is a great future. And the idea would be to harness their know-how, because they've got a fantastic setup over here, a lot of great professionals, and this can become a real historic, a new vista. And there's programmings, there's weekends, there's, they just started offering now. They will send out for Shabbat to a community anywhere in Israel. They'll send out a rabbi and his family, or a couple of rabbis, and they'll spend a Shabbat in the community. So now we're going to extend that also to the English-speaking communities, that any English-speaking community can invite a rabbi, and they'll come, the rabbi with his wife and his little family, and they'll spend Shabbos together. And that's a fantastic opportunity to make it real. It's not just on the screen, but really to be encountering and to meet. They're planning now a series of weekend seminars in English here in Israel.
Wow.
They've had great success in these weekend seminars abroad, in New York and California. So it's really a very exciting new initiative.
So for Hidabroot, network doesn't just mean television.
That's right.
Network means real network.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So I want to thank you very much. And let's hear, in New York, we actually have Rabbi Paysach Krohn.
Okay,
which is
that's great.
Paysach Krohn is amazing,
that's
and one of the great storytellers, rabbis of extraordinary of our generation. So let's hear a few words from Rabbi Paysach Krohn.
Shalom, Rabbi Glaser. Thank you so much for your kind words and your enthusiastic encouragement. I can just tell you personally that I have been to the offices of Hidabroot, and I am so amazed at the multifaceted aspects of this great organization, the Torah, the Chesed, the inspiration, and I am so proud to have been asked to say a few words about the wonderful Yontif of Chanukah. I would like to begin by quoting a pasuk that the prophet Yirmiyohu said. Yirmiyohu compared Klal Yisrael to an olive tree. Zayis Ranon, the pasuk tells us in Yirmiyahu Yud Aleph Tez Zayin. Zayis Ranon, a fresh leafy olive tree, Yefei Peri Toyar, is such a beautiful fruit. Korah Hashem Shemech, Hashem has called you. That beautiful olive tree with its beautiful olives. Now, why is Klal Yisrael compared to an olive? And the Medrash in Shemois Rabbah Lamed Vav Aleph tells us something very interesting. It says, why did Yirmiyah compare Klal Yisrael to an olive? And the answer is because you could try this yourself. You'll see. You could take many, many different liquids. You could take water, you could take wine, and you could take soda, and you could take oil, olive oil. Mix it together, and you will see that the olive oil will remain separate. It doesn't get mixed together with the other oils, even though that they're all liquid. Not only that, it rises to the top. And that's exactly what Klal Yisrael is, that they do not mix with the nations of the world. We get along with them, we work alongside with them, we live near them, but we don't become part of them. That's the beauty. And the lashon of the Medrash is that kol hamashkim misarvim zebazeh, all the liquids mix together, but the yidden einim misarev, that they don't mix. And not only that, they rise to the top. And that's the beautiful thing. And that's why David HaMelech tells us in Tilim Kuf Kof Ches Gimel, Bonecho, your children, kishesile zeisim, should be like olive plants. They should rise to the top. And you know something? Olives are always fresh and vibrant, and that's what we want for our children. So now, here we come to the Yontif of Chanukah. Beautiful, very happy Yontif. And I want to share with you something. If you take a look in the Meiri was one of the great Rishonim, one of the great commentaries on the Shas, on the Talmud Bavli. And he writes in the introduction a very, very important lesson in life, that every experience that we go through, whether it's a simcha, a happy occasion, or chas v'shalom, something otherwise, we have to learn something from it. Every yontif that we go through, we have to learn something from it. It has to change us. It has to elevate us. And he said if it doesn't, then a person, chas v'shalom, could be considered like a chamor, like a donkey. A donkey carries wheat in the wheat season, barley in the barley season, oats in the oat season, but it remains the same donkey. But when a yid goes through a simcha, he has to think about, why did Hashem allow me to go through this wonderful occasion? How can this have an effect on me? And the same thing is with Chanukah. Same thing is with any yontif. So I was thinking, what is a lesson that all of us can take from Chanukah that can elevate us and carry us throughout the year and throughout our lives? And I'll tell you what I think it is. You know that there is a machlokes, there's a controversy, how you're supposed to light the candles and how many you light, and what order you light them. For example, Beis Shammai says on the first night you light 8 candles. Second night you light 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And his reasoning is because, after all, in the beginning, there were 8 days left to the miracle, then there's 7 days left, 6 days left, 5 days, and it goes down that way. However, Beis Hillel says no, we light 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why? Because of Moisef v'Hailach. Moisef v'Hailach means we add and we go higher. And that's what a Jew is supposed to do. Everything that we do, we're always supposed to strive to get better and to reach a higher level. And so therefore, when we come to this yontif, I think that what we should try to look in our lives, how are we davening? Can we improve our tefillah? Can we improve not only the amount of learning Torah that we do, but the depth of the Torah, how we understand it? What can we do to enhance our understanding of Torah? How can we do more chesed? You know, I'm a very big believer. I speak about it all the time, about people doing a chesed every single day. That's what the Chavetz Chaim tells us. And the Sefer Avas Chesed, that every single day, a person should do a chesed for somebody else, just like a person is supposed to learn something every day. And so therefore, when you get involved in doing for others, if you've never done that, if you really haven't been involved, get involved. And if you're being involved, get involved even a little bit more. That's the Moshe V'Hailech. That's getting a little higher. You know, I want to share with you a beautiful story, a beautiful Chanukah story. And this story happened in the 1940s. There was a Rav, his name was Rabbi Schnitzler. His exact name was Rabbi Shraga Shmuel Schnitzler. Everybody knew him as Rabbi Shmelka. Unfortunately, he was in the concentration camp in Bergen-Belsen. But he was a very great man, and he wanted to give chizuk to the people in the barracks. And it was the month of Kislev, and he told them, don't worry, you'll see, we are going to be able to light Hanukkah lights here, even in the barracks. He couldn't tell them whether it was going to be candles or oil, but he said, you'll see. Hashem will make it that we'll be able to light. Many people doubted him. Many people thought he was just saying it so that he should encourage people. But how in the world in Bergen-Belsen were you going to be able to light Hanukkah licht? It's impossible. But you know, Reb Shmelka had a very, very difficult job. Unfortunately, after people were gassed to death, these corpses were taken to the crematorium where they were burned. And they were put on a truck. I've been to Auschwitz and Majdanek. I've seen those trucks. And they would pile bodies very high. And Nebuch, he had to walk along that truck, make sure the bodies didn't fall off. And he brought them into the crematorium where they were going to be burned. It was an awful thing. Rab Shmelka would often say that he would cry because he recognized some of those people that were on those flatbed trucks. Well, every day he would walk along with the truck, and then he would walk back to the barracks. And one day, as he was walking back to the barracks, he noticed, he almost tripped because suddenly there was a lump in the ground. It was like a little bump. And he couldn't imagine, this wasn't there yesterday. Had somebody hid something in there? Well, he was very curious. So he waited until nobody was around, none of the SS guards were around. And he went back to where that bump in the ground was, because it wasn't there the day before. And he dug up and he saw the most unbelievable thing. He saw a little jug of oil. He could not believe it. And he dug a little bit more, and you would not believe he found some cotton strands that you could make a wick, and little jugs, 8 jugs. Who put it there? Obviously a Yid put it there. But now, wow, he could have these jugs and the oil, and he could light the Chanukah licht for the people in the barracks. But to me, this is the greatest part of the story. He just covered it up and he left it there. You know why? Because he figured that if some Yid hid them, what right does he have to take them? But he watched it every day to see who was going to come back to take that, which was hidden in that lump of ground. He went back to the barracks and he asked, did anybody hide any oil? Did anybody hide any cotton? Nobody knew what he was talking about. The days went on and Hanukkah was getting closer, and that lump in the ground was still there. And then when it was just about an hour or two before Hanukkah, he figured whoever hid them obviously is not coming back for them. And he ran out and he got those strands, he got that oil, and when he came back to the barracks, he lit the first one, and the people could not believe it. He had said the 3 brachas. The people were crying. They were incredulous. How in the world could this have happened? How in the world? Where did he get this oil and the wicks and the little jug? And every single night he lit those strands of cotton, and every night of Hanukkah they were able to say the bracha and be able to participate in the great mitzvah of Hanukkah candles, or Hanukkah oil, Hanukkah licht. A few months later, in April of 1945, they were liberated. And this Rab Shmelka went back to Hungary and he became the Rav in a place called Bekesh Shaba. He was known as the Chaba Rav. He was such a holy person. Eventually he moved to Eretz Yisrael, and people used to go to him every day to get blessings from him. Now one day in the 1950s, he came to America, and he came to visit the Satmar Rebbe, Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha. He came to visit him in Williamsburg. Now the Satmar Rebbe was also in Bergen-Belsen, and they got into a conversation, and they were talking and sharing memories, each one expressing their hopes and their aspirations of hopefully being able to get out of that place. And then the Satmar Rebbe said an amazing thing. He said, I feel bad about something. And the Chaba Rav, Rab Schnitzler, said, what does the Rebbe feel bad about? He said, I was able to bribe one of the guards, and he let me hide some oil and some wicks and little jugs. And they were never used because I got out on Chof Aleph Kislev. I got out on the 21st day of Kislev, 4 days before Chanukah. And Rav Schnitzler, Rav Shmelka, the Chabarov said, Rebbe, you're not going to believe this. I found them. I found it. I saw it in the lump of ground where you hid it. And we brought it back to the barracks and we used it. And the Satmar Rebbe was so elated. And he said how wonderful and how special it is that once again Hashem made a miracle happen with oil in the month of Kislev. Incredible. Now, I want to tell you something. I have a son-in-law. His name is Hananya Kramer. He has a multimedia company in Baltimore called Kol Ram Multimedia. And he and I have put together something called Living Lessons. And what we do, I tell some of the stories that I've written in the Maggid books, and he and his company put it to animation. And when we put out 5 stories about Chanukah, this was one of the stories that was put together with animation. Well, about 2 years ago, when it first came out, suddenly I get a call from a friend of mine, Chaim Schnitzler. And he says, Rabbi Krohn, I don't believe what I just saw. I said, what are you talking about? He said, the Chaba Rav, Rab Shmelka Schnitzler, was my great-grandfather. I am sitting here in the hospital with my father, Rabbi Yehuda, and we're sitting and we're watching Living Lessons. And we are so proud that this great, wonderful story about our ancestor will now be remembered forever. How could I ever thank you? So beautiful because that is a story that's worth remembering. So I just want to end just with this beautiful thought. On the dreidel there are 4 letters. Nun, Gimel, Shin, and Hey. Now, that's the dreidel that we use here in America and all over the world. I think maybe in Eretz Yisrael they have different letters, but those are the traditional letters. Neis Gadol Hayasham. But you know something? Nun, Gimel, Hey, Shin. You know what that equals in Gematria? 358. The word Mashiach also is equal to 358. Mem Shin Yod Ches. And you know what Chacham Rabbi Ovadia Yosef once said? You know what the word Mashiach stands for? Madlikin Shimonas Yemei Chanukah. We light 8 days the Chanukah menorah, the Chanukah licht, the Chanukah oil, the Chanukah candles. Let us hope that in this year of Chanukah, when we will light with great enthusiasm, we'll be moisef ha'halach, we'll do it with greater adherence to the halacha, we'll do it with greater excitement with the family. That as we do, Madlikin Shemoines Yemei Chanukah, we will all be zeicha to that which is hinted at on the letters of the dreidel. The 358 will be zeicha to see Mashiach in our time. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Krohn. Amazing words. Rabbi Abramov, I want to thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. I mean, your words are gorgeous. And
One question.
Oh, you have a question? Yeah.
These donuts, will it upset the dish if I take one?
I think we have to hold off on the donuts. I mean,
okay, just remember I've booked one.
Okay, look the way it was set up. I mean, it's gorgeous. Good night to all our viewers. I welcome you to join us again tomorrow night. Happy Chanukah.